The following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
Thank you, Tally Olson. I am back. You are comfortably zoned with me, the Zigzag Man in Alameda, California, right across the bay from San Francisco, across the moat from Oakland, in the northern part of the great state of California. And my guest is my friend. There aren't many people I can say that about. Jerry Feidelberg. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me on the program. And it's just a beautiful day in the Bay Area today. The weather in Alameda is nice and warm. It's close to the bay. And on many days when I would go for a walk, I'd walk from my house down to the bay and walk along the shores and see the Bay Bridge and have a great view of downtown San Francisco. It's how fortunate I am to be living in this town.
And autumn in this town is when the best weather of the year is. It's about 5 degrees higher than it normally is, about 75 degrees, sunny, and it's great. But the weather isn't everything. We have a new celebrity from Alameda, your daughter. Tell me about her appointment and how proud you are.
First of all, I'm very proud of my daughter, Jennifer. She is a graduate of Alameda High School, went to California State University, Northridge, CSUN, got her law degree from Dickinson School of Law, which is part of Penn State University, Pennsylvania State University.
That's not State Penn. That's Penn State. Let's clarify that.
Penn State University. And she's been a prosecutor for many years, or was a prosecutor for many years. She was a deputy district attorney in L.A. County, and she was assigned to hardcore gangbangers, or gangs, and prosecuted and did murder cases for probably for 10 years, up until 2018. Wow. And 2018, she moved back to the Bay Area and was a corporate lawyer for Apple, but she didn't like working in a corporate setting. It was too secretive. Everything was done by committee. When she was practicing as a prosecutor, she made her own decisions. And she took an appointment, or filled out an application to be a commissioner of the court in Contra Costa County in 2000, and she joined them in 2019, and she did traffic court and small claims court. And just in last month, Governor Gavin Newsom appointed Jennifer to the Supreme Court of California in Contra Costa County. We're very proud of her. Great achievement. She's a full-fledged judge.
I mean, we're both a bunch of yids, so we use the expression kvelling, K-V-E-L-L-I-N-G, and there's no literal translation, but you are kvelling, and just the sound of it, people know what it is, and nice. On the negative side of your life, hoping that it will turn out positive, you've got some back surgery coming up, and I just wanted to wish you all the love and luck in the world, Gary.
Yep, I got a date with the surgeon at 7:30 Monday morning. The surgery will take the surgeon estimating take 4 to 6 hours to do the repair job, and it's going to be he's going to fuse the disc at L2 and L3, and hopefully it'll come out. We're looking forward to a successful outcome. Hopefully.
Yeah, no reason not to think so. And again, we just wish you the best in all your endeavors. And what do you think? What do you think motivated your daughter most? Was it you or your late wife? Who do you think motivated her most?
Well, Jennifer had an interest in the law. She was a voracious reader, and her favorite author was Stephen King. She read all his books. And when she went to Cal State Northridge, she was an English major, but she had she graduated in '93, and in January of '94. She was sitting right on top. She was living across the street from the campus in Northridge when the '94 Northridge earthquake occurred. She was right on top of it. She lost her apartment, and she had been working. She had been working, and I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure she hadn't taken the LSATs, the law exams to go to law school at that point. Well, she came home for a few days, to get over the shock of the earthquake, and we had a nice talk with her. And we said, when everything gets back in order, you've always said you wanted to be a lawyer. Why don't you take the LSATs and apply to law school? And she did, but she didn't get into Dickinson School of Law. She didn't apply there. She applied to Queens College in Queens, in New York, part of SUNY, part of State University of New York. And she went to law school there for 1 year, and then transferred to Dickinson it's near Harrisburg. It's in Carlisle, Pennsylvania, home of Jim Thorpe. That was where Jim Thorpe was from. A beautiful, beautiful town, and a beautiful school. And there's the Dickinson College, which is the same name, but Dickinson School of Law I don't recall if they were related, but beautiful area to go to school. So she went there, did well, and then practiced in rural Pennsylvania for a couple of years, and then came back to California. She worked for legal aid out in Marin County for peanuts. Literally, she was making no money, but she was getting experience, and her office was right across the street from the Frank Lloyd Wright building in San Rafael.
Beautiful building, by the way.
Yeah.
Incredibly nice. All basically on one floor, if I'm not mistaken.
It was just a gorgeous structure. If anyone's in California, that's one building they should go look at. And after that, she went to the public defender's office in Alameda County, and she was an advocate for children. When the parents would get arrested for drugs or felonies or whatever, she was an advocate to help the children. Who's going to take care of the children, finding a place for the children, making sure that they were taken care of. So she did that for a while, and and in 2002, she moved back to L.A. with her husband, and she went to work for the city attorney's office and was doing primarily DUIs, prosecuting drunks. And she got tired of that and then moved over to became a deputy district attorney in L.A. County. And her first year there, she won an award for Outstanding Young Prosecutor. And from there, she was a rising star in the prosecutorial ranks in the district attorney's office in Los Angeles. And she was assigned to the Compton court. And down in Compton, she did a lot of murder cases. And she got, to tell you the truth, she got burnt out after a while. She said, "Dad, you wouldn't believe what I've seen. And it's getting to me. I can't take it anymore." And that's when she decided to come back to Northern California and she got the job with Apple, and from Apple to the Superior Court in Contra Costa County. So she's paid her dues, and now her ambition was always to be a judge, and she's reached her goal, and now she's a judge. So it's great job.
Have you discussed Roe v. Wade with her at all, and how what the hopes are to be able to keep it intact? And my next question would be, is there a way that Biden can increase the Supreme Court so that we can get the votes to save humanity?
Yeah, well, the first question. Jennifer is pro-choice, so I know she's concerned. I know she's concerned about what's going on in the Supreme Court, but that's going to play out on a different level. And as for Biden, the second part, there's no set number of justices that can be on the Supreme Court. There's nothing in the Constitution that says you have to have 9 justices. They've had as few as 5 and as many as 10 over the years. It would take an act of Congress to increase the total to 13, which the Democrats would need to then have a 7-6 advantage. But Biden's not going to do it. He's just not going to do it. First of all, McConnell would filibuster it to the ends of the earth. They can't get 60 votes to pass it. So there's no point in proposing it at this point in time. Biden's most important thing Biden can do is to get the 2 bills that they have passed the Congress and then pass the Senate and get them signed. Today, Joe Manchin said he couldn't accept $3.5 trillion, but he would accept $1.5 trillion. Well, there's a huge $2 trillion difference, and that's a huge amount of money.
How about they meet right in between that?
That would be okay. That's called compromise, and it's something they used to do in the old days. Whenever Dirksen was in the Senate, they used to have horse trading, and they say, "Look, I got this bill, and we need your support. And if you got something coming up, I'll support you. Let me know what it is, and I'll back you on that." So it was a quid pro quo, if you will. But now the what's happened in the Republican Party has become a zero-sum game. You cannot vote for anything that the Democrats propose, or we will get you. And the next time you're up for re-election, we'll put our guys up there and we'll primary you. You won't even get a chance to stand for re-election. So they're all afraid of that.
Jerry, is it still a Trump party? Are the Republicans literally a Trump party?
Yeah, absolutely. You only had 2 people. You had I forgot how many people voted to impeach him from the Republican Party, and all the Republicans wanted to do was to stonewall the January 6th insurrection. Remember when Benghazi occurred and 4 Americans were killed in Benghazi? That investigation went on for 4 years. Hillary Clinton gave 12 hours of testimony, and it went on and on and on. Here we had an insurrection. We had 5 people die at the scene, and a couple other officers committed suicide afterwards, and maybe 8 people total are dead as a result of that, plus all the injuries to the policemen. You had 500 people arrested. It was domestic terrorism. It was an insurrection. It was an attempt to overthrow the government. It was a coup d'etat sponsored by Donald Trump and his minions. So it was very surface, and they want to cover it up. And they say, well, it's in the past. Let's move on with it. No, we got to get to the bottom of it. We cannot let it rest because it will happen again, and we cannot afford that at this point in time.
Are the investigations over? It was going on for two weeks ago, and all of a sudden it's disappeared from CNN.
No, it's going on. They've subpoenaed 4 of Trump's top aides, Mark Meadows. I can't think of the other three at the moment, but
are they likely to testify? And if so, does the committee have any teeth to come at them?
Yes, they can charge them. They can have them arrested for civil and criminal contempt of Congress. They can be arrested, and so their options are, if they do nothing and they get arrested and they are forced to testify, they can take the Fifth Amendment. There's nothing wrong with that. That's a constitutional right, but they will have to appear before the Congress. And if they show their disrespect for Congress, they can be arrested and thrown in jail. So we'll see what happens in that. And they issued some more subpoenas to other players that were involved in the January 6th insurrection from the Trump administration. So it's moving along.
How about Trump's case in New York, the federal case in New York, with the taxes and what have you? How's that coming? That's still alive?
Yeah, that's still alive. They indicted Weisselberg. I think there are 15 counts, and the Trump Organization, of which Trump is the head of the Trump Organization, although he wasn't indicted. And they're looking at Calamari's son, or there will be. The word a couple of weeks ago was that there were more indictments coming down from one of the defense attorneys. So they're looking at it, and they're putting together a case. You know, they had over 1 million documents that they had to go through. That takes a tremendous amount of time and work, and it's coming along. The state of the state of New York, their Attorney General Letitia James is looking at what the Trump Organization did. They have this estate up in Westchester, which they claim was a historical structure, and they got a tax break on it, and then they were using it for their own private use. So they're thinking, well, maybe they got $21 million or in tax relief that they shouldn't have gotten. So they're looking at that. And there's
Georgia. There's Georgia's out there as well.
Yeah, Georgia is interesting because he did violate. The question is, just because he was out in the open and did it, and said he didn't have any criminal intent, doesn't mean it wasn't criminal intent. That's the difficult part to prove. But there are felonies involved. He was trying to get others to overturn a fair and free election. And he asked the Secretary of State to find 12,000 votes to overturn the election, to be complicit with him in overturning an election. He wanted Brian Kemp to order another election, which Kemp didn't do. So there's a lot going on in the Georgia, especially in Fulton County, and the DA in that county has got her hands full, preparing everything so that when the indictments come down, he'll have to stand for his crime. They talk about, well, you can't indict a president, and whatever a president does is legal. That's not true. Number one, he's claiming
presidential
confidentiality, and
right.
That doesn't. First of all, it doesn't exist as a crime being committed. Secondly, he's no longer president, so it's up to Biden to say whether he can say I can use presidential confidentiality as an excuse, and he hasn't done that yet. Sarkozy of France got indicted and convicted for committing crimes while he was president of France. It has happened. It has never happened in the United States, but we never had a president like Trump doing the stuff that he was doing.
Yeah, it's crazy. Only thing crazier is the stadium issue in Oakland for baseball. Yeah. So let's switch gears a little bit. And I asked you the other day, we had lunch at Nathan's, which was our pleasure to get together and do this. And thanks for buying, Jerry. I appreciate that. We talked about this a little bit. What do you see happening? Do you see them in Vegas? Do you see them somewhere else? Can the team be saved for Oakland at this point?
Yeah, the way the A's have behaved, treating the city of Oakland fairly shabbily, and the fans for the last when Lou Wolf was the managing general partner, he came on board. I'm going to say 2000, I don't know, 2010 or so, 11.
12, I think, but yeah.
Yeah. So they want to the primary owner is John Fisher, who's the principal owner of the Gap, and he's a billionaire, one of the richest owners in baseball. And initially the A's had this deal where they were getting revenues from TV and the small market revenues, and they were making good money, and they kept the payroll low, and they were profitable, and that ended a few years ago. But they still wanted to get a state-of-the-art stadium. The problem with the Oakland Coliseum was built back in the 60s. It was built primarily for the Oakland Raiders, but in those days they were building stadiums that had multi-purposes that could be also used for baseball stadiums. And they're just two different.
They called them cookie cutters.
Cookie cutters, right? They had them in Philadelphia. They had them in Cincinnati and Pittsburgh, Kansas City. So they've all, most of them all now have a stadium for football, a stadium for baseball. Oakland stayed the same. The current site is about 155 acres, and it had the basketball arena next door when they had shows and other things, revenue coming into the city, plus the baseball and football activities. Well, basketball is gone, football is gone, and baseball is left. And so the A's started to alienate their fans by saying, we want to go to San Jose. They wanted, and Lou Wolf, as a developer, looked at the area and said, Silicon Valley is where all the money is now. There are a lot of jobs down there. Let's do. And they saw the success of the San Jose Sharks. We'd like to build in San Jose if we can find the land. Well, they couldn't find the land, and the Giants were granted territorial rights many, many years ago when the Haas family owned the A's, and Bob Lurie, who was the owner of the Giants, and Candlestick Park was a better football stadium than a baseball stadium. And he wanted to build a stadium in San Francisco, and he couldn't. And it was on the ballot 3 times, and he couldn't get the people of San Francisco to approve it. He was on the San Jose ballot, and they wouldn't approve it. So Lurie was going to move the team, but anyway, before the San Jose ballot went on, Lurie wanted to move to San Jose, and he asked Walter Hodge if they had a problem with that. They said, no, check with MLB. And so MLB granted them territorial status to San Jose. But they didn't build a ballpark in San Jose. They built it in San Francisco, which left the San Jose territory open. And the A's wanted to move down there, and the San Jose said, sure. But the Giants objected, and San Jose took them to court, took MLB to court, and San Jose lost. And so the Giants still have San Jose territory. but they blocked any move for the A's to go down there. So they looked at Fremont. They found a location they were going to call it Cisco Field, and that fell through. Then they started looking in Oakland. They went to Laney College, and they said they had a deal, but they got egg on their face because the person that made the decision whether to go ahead with the program was not on board and was never consulted. And when it came to him, he said, "I'm not going to approve this deal." And the students and the faculty opposed it at Laney College, and that fell through. And then they started looking at this parcel of land a little bit north of Jack London Square in an industrial area. A lot of cranes and trucks in the area, trains going through there. But they decided on a site at Howard Terminal, and they were going to build a 35,000 baseball-only stadium. And that's what the city of Oakland thought they were going to do, and there were some infrastructure problems getting people in and out of the park because the streets are narrow up there. There's a lot of trains and truck traffic. How are you going to get all these people in there? So they were working on that, and then a few months ago, the A's came up with this bombshell, which they dumped on the Oakland City Council, to build 3,000 housing units, to build 1 million square feet of office space, to build a couple 100,000 square feet of retail, and they wanted a quick decision from the city council. And they said, well, no, hold on, not so fast. So the A's, seeing that the Raiders had moved to Las Vegas and the success of the Golden Knights in Las Vegas, they said, well, maybe you can build us a baseball stadium. And so they went down, and they've been talking with people in Las Vegas. Major League Baseball has insisted that they want a downtown location for teams. The A's location, current where it is now, is not quite downtown, but it's not that far.
No, but it has the infrastructure to get people in and out of there. It's got Bay Area rapid transit already in, buses right off the freeway. It's idyllic from a logistical standpoint. So, and I always thought that if they got the parking lot on the downtown stadium away from the stadium and get a tram to bring the people in. I thought that would catch on. It really never did.
No, I don't know how many people you can ferry from 12th Street or from West Oakland, the BART stations, to get people over there. You're certainly not going to walk over there from those stations. It's a good walk. And to be quite honest, it's not that safe. So, in my mind, the current location is the best location. Now, the A's own 50% of it. They bought the county's half of it for $85 million. The city has been reluctant to sell their half to the A's for $85 million. They think the A's have undervalued it and they're trying to get it on the cheap. There are other groups that are making bigger offers to buy the other half of the ground of the 155 acres to do stuff. And we discussed this, and I've said this ever since this whole fiasco has been going on. The best place to build a state-of-the-art stadium is in the current location, and they got to do something. I don't know if they can put in. Like the Giants are doing in San Francisco and Lot A, putting in office space and other businesses and restaurants to make it worthwhile for people when they come to the ball game. So there are things that they can do.
Jerry, you mentioned that it's not safe currently in downtown Oakland. I think bringing a stadium in would rejuvenate downtown Oakland and eventually pay for itself.
Yeah, you might be right. There'd be more lighting, more people around, more police. Sure, that's very sound thinking.
And businesses and restaurants and what have you open around there, just as with the Giants. The area they're in now was a shell of what it was back when the stadium was built. They built that on a bit of a dream, and it came together. I'm surprised the A's never consulted the people that made it work for the Giants and got tips from them or whatever. I know it sounds like, why would Macy's help Gimbel's? But if baseball succeeds in Oakland, it helps San Francisco baseball and vice versa. And that's something that should be explored. The teams working together in the name of baseball. And I'm reminded of the rivalries that the Giants and Dodgers have had, that the Red Sox and Yankees have had. That helps baseball. It doesn't hurt.
You're right in that regard, but the problem they have is with Larry Bayer and probably Giants ownership. They have been hoping that the A's would leave town for years and just leave the market to themselves. And they're not going to do anything to help them. And it was the same situation with the Raiders and the 49ers. They really don't compete against each other. The A's, they only play 6 games each year against each other, and there's no real rivalry between them, between the Giants and the A's. Are in 2 different leagues. So you would think that having baseball every day would be good to build fans, but the A's have their fans, the Giants have their fans. Down here in the peninsula, if I see an A's cap once, I'll see 1,000 Giants caps and 1 A's cap. But you go over to the East Bay, you see more A's caps than you do Giants caps. But that's just the way it is. The A's have alienated their fans. They came into the season last year. They finally advanced past the wild card, the first wild card round, which they played the White Sox last year, and they took that initial series, and then they met the Astros and got bounced. But they let 2 popular players go that they shouldn't have. One was Marcus Semien, guy who lives in the area. I think he lived in Berkeley. He was from Oakland, and he lived in Berkeley, and he went to Cal, and he came to the A's after the 2014 season. He was traded by the White Sox to the A's for Jeff Samardzija. And he came to the A's, and he was a second baseman when he was with the White Sox. And the A's moved him to shortstop, and he really had a tough time adjusting to shortstop. His footwork was terrible. His arm slot fielding baseballs was terrible. He committed to over 35 errors in his first season at shortstop. But the A's wisely brought in Ron Washington, and Washington had worked with Eric Chavez, and Chavez won 6 Golden Gloves as a third baseman. And he worked, and I saw Ron Washington work, and I talked with Ron Washington about Marcus Semien. He says, the kid's got the right start. He's doing the hard work. He's going to be okay. And he was okay, and in 2019, I think he hit at that time 33 or 34 home runs at shortstop, and he came in third in the most valuable player voting, and looked like he was going to be with the A's for a long time as the linchpin. Well, he didn't have such a good season in 2020, but they only played 60 games, and and it was just weird last year. And he was a free agent. Now, the A's could have traded him, which they and gotten something for him, but they didn't do that. They let him become a free agent, but they could have kept him by giving him a qualifying offer. And it was expensive. It would have been $18 million. But it would have been money well spent because they didn't offer it to him, and Semien went to the Toronto Blue Jays, and he's hit over 40 home runs this year. And he along with Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Bo Bichette, and the rest of George Springer and the rest of the Blue Jays. The Blue Jays are just a game behind the second wild card spot. The Blue Jays, Mariners, Red Sox are in a dogfight for that final second spot. The Yankees can be beat too if they play the Blue Jays tonight, and then they face the Rays for 3 more games. So, and the Rays have played them tough all year. So the Yankees' first wild card slot has not been determined yet either. So there are 4 teams that can fighting for 2 wild card spots in the next 4 days. In the meantime, just as an aside, the A's were eliminated last night from the wild card. They got beat for the 12th straight time by the Seattle Mariners, and they were, if you're ready to, they were 4-15 against the Mariners this year. They lost. The Mariners just owned them. Conversely, the A's owned the Angels. Their record was about the same against the Angels. I think they were 15-4 against the Angels. So it's the mystery of baseball, how you can be so good against one team in your division and so bad against the other team in your division. But that's what happened. That's what makes baseball so special.
And you can throw in there the uncertainty about whether Billy Beane and if he left, he'd take Bob Melvin with him, no doubt. There are some strong rumors that the Mets are interested in Billy Beane running their organization and are willing to give up a little partial ownership, as did the A's to Billy Beane a while ago. He's a tremendous executive. For what he's had to work with financially over the last 10 years, he has made them a contender virtually every year. And Oakland would be hard-pressed if they lost him.
Yeah, they would. And another former A's general manager is running the Mets now, Sandy Alderson.
Right.
And when Sandy left after the 98, well, Sandy gave up being general manager after the 97 season. Beane was in his first year in 98, and then Alderson left to go join Major League Baseball, and he's had a checkered journey since then to several different places. But now he's at the Mets, and the Mets have a new owner. Cohen, I think Steve Cohen is the owner, and Sandy, has some health issues, and he might want to just check out as president.
I think that's what they're counting on. He had a terrific career. He's faded in the last year or so. He's made some decisions that tells me he's out of touch. But that's another story. I would like to see them get Beane from the standpoint of my being a fanatical Mets fan. But I live out here. It's the hometown team. I hate to see him lose Beane.
It's a possibility. The Epstein, who was who helped to bring the World Series crown to the Red Sox in 2004, went to the Cubs, and now he's been out for a year or so. he might be available to come join the Mets, or Billy Beane, who could be the president. Who knows what they do for a general manager? So those things, and not only a general manager but a manager. The current Mets manager, Rojas, who's Felipe Ulu's son, has had a tough year as the team has scuffled all year long, and they poured a ton of money into Francisco Lindor, a 10-year contract for over $30 million a year, and he was playing like a $2 million a year player. He just did not have a good season.
I don't want to make excuses for the Mets, because I've been doing that for 60 years, and it's not fun. But they have had a ton of injuries this year. All teams have, many teams have. No team has had more injuries than the Mets. Literally every player has spent time. They're like 65 guys have played for them this year. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah,
okay, I want you to play Nostradamus with me for a second. Will the A's stay in Oakland?
At this point, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I'd like him to stay. I think if they were going to Las Vegas, if something was really workable, they probably would have said, "Well, screw you, Oakland. We're gonna move to Las Vegas." But they haven't done that, so there's still hope that they're working on something here. But let's finish with the success story of the year in the Bay Area. It's called the San Francisco Giants. They've won more games than any team in San Francisco than the Giants have been here since 1958. They've won 104 games with 4 games left on the schedule.
Wow.
For 2 games, and unfortunately they lost Brandon Belt to a broken thumb. They'll just, it's next man up. They're going to have to do the best they can. But all the players are pitching in. They're pitching. They got a couple of rookies now filling in, and the bullpen that are doing real well. They've got maybe 3 starters: Gaussman, Webb. Can't think of DeSclafani. So they got 3 pitchers that could take them deep into the playoffs. And they certainly do not want to finish in the first wild card spot. They'd have to play the Cardinals, and the Cardinals are the hottest team in baseball right now. Whether they won 17, 18 in a row, they're just on fire. And you don't want to play a team that's going as hot as the Cardinals, but that's baseball. The Dodgers are 2 games back with 4 to go. If the Giants win today and the Dodgers lose, their magic number will be down to 1, and hopefully the Giants will make it into the playoffs. And then, of course, when you're in the playoffs, anything can happen.
Absolutely. It's nice to see that rivalry going strong. Generally speaking, when the Giants have been up, the Dodgers have been down, and vice versa. I root for the Giants when they're not playing the Mets, and I'm happy to see it. Hey, Jerry, we're running out of time. You are, as usual, a terrific guest, and a more terrific friend, let me tell you that. Good luck in the hospital for a few days. Rehab is going to go well. I wish you the best.
Yeah, I'll be watching the playoffs in the hospital if they have the channels. The TV in the hospitals aren't that good, but I'll have my iPhone with me, so I'll be able to. I might be able to get it with my because I can get the streaming on my iPhone, so I'll be okay. I'll be able to watch the games on my phone, so it won't be too bad. And after that, I'll be out of commission for. I don't know when the physical therapy is going to start. We're going to have home physical therapy and home occupational therapy, and maybe back watching everything on TV. So I'll talk to you. We'll do some podcasts maybe in about a month, and I hope it all goes well. And I'll miss doing it. And when we get back in shape, we'll go to the new burger joint next time up in Alameda.
Absolutely, Five Guys or whatever it's called in South Shore. Nations is not pleasing us lately for one reason or another. But when Michael Duca joins us, there's a Telsa loading station or electric station right down there.
Right there.
He'll be happy to do that. All right, my friend. I'm wishing you love and luck.
Yeah. And like we say in Yiddish, sei gesund.
Sei gesund to you, and happy trails, and keep them flying.
And one more thing, let's mention your book. Come on.
Oh, well, I wasn't going to mention it. You have some good reading ahead of you when you're in the hospital. 500 pages, and you are featured. You and the number of comfortably zoned podcasters and authors, and it's just a terrific book, and I have a hard time being humble. Go figure.
Yep, comfortably zoned in a vat of pine tar by Ralph Tycho.
And George Grimm.
And George Grimm, and it's available on Amazon. Comfortably zoned in a vat of pine tar. And I started reading it, and it's absolutely wonderful. And they got Peter Golenbach wrote a nice foreword, as did Mark Littell, the former Major League pitcher with the Kansas City Royals and St. Louis Cardinals.
Whoa. I'm going to put you on my publicity staff when you get out of the hospital. Something to look forward to. All right, my friend. I love you, Jerry.
All right,
be well.
You too.
The proceeding has been a Comfortably Zoned network production. You are advised to keep your dreams wet, your humor dry, your children and grandchildren out of military recruiting offices and off the laps of clerics who wear dresses. Thank you for listening, everyone. Happy trails.